Thank you, Tom. As you can see, the safety and security of the American people is the President's top priority, and we'll continue to work with our local partners to keep the public fully informed as the events unfold. Looking ahead to this weekend, the President and the First Lady will be hosting cabinet members and their spouses at Camp David. This will be a working weekend, which will include the 4th cabinet meeting since the President took office. That will take place on Saturday. The President will lead a discussion on the administration's priorities in addition to receiving briefings on Hurricane Harvey, recovery efforts, and preparations for Hurricane Irma. Secretary Mattis will obviously be among the cabinet members attending this weekend, and on a lighter note, today happens to be his birthday, so I'd like to wish Secretary Mattis a happy birthday on behalf of all of us here. Everybody knows I love a good birthday story. In a letter to his troops in the field in 2003, General Mattis encouraged them to fight with a happy heart and a strong spirit and to demonstrate to the world that there is no better friend and no worse enemy than a U.S. Marine. I think it's safe to say that he's lived his own life by that advice. In general, we hope your 67th birthday is a good one. With that, I'll take your questions. Celia.
Is this agreement with the president, is this agreement with the Democrats that the president reached a one-off? Is this something we can expect to see more of, bipartisan from this White House?
I certainly think that the goal is to have bipartisan efforts and certainly legislation where you've got Republicans and Democrats both working towards it. That was something that the president talked about during the campaign, and certainly something that I think the American people expect, and one of the reasons they voted for him, and I certainly would expect to continue to see that.
Does the president care at all that Republican leadership is annoyed with this deal that he reached?
I think that the president's focus was what was doing what was best for the American people, and that's why he's the president. The people wanted somebody to be a leader. They wanted somebody that was going to step up and take action and get things done, and that's exactly what the president did. I think the last thing we want to do is play partisan politics when we have people in places like Texas and Louisiana that need financial support through the federal government. The president wanted to make sure that happened and that got taken care of, and that's what he did.
Sarah.
John?
Sir, what's the thinking behind the president working with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to eliminate the need to constantly go through this debt ceiling process?
Look, I think that if you can take some of that partisan bickering out of the process, that's probably a good thing. This is a government that is always going to pay its debts and wants to make sure that our bills get paid and that we can support the needs that we have of our country, like we're having to do right now in a time of disaster relief efforts. And so that's certainly a priority moving forward.
But there are some conservatives in Congress who say taking away the battles over the debt ceiling just means that you're going to continue to add on debt, add on debt, add on debt with no checks and balances.
Well, I think that's, if you have your priorities wrong, the president is focused on, one, balancing the budget, bringing that debt down overall, but also making sure, again, that the citizens of our country, particularly those in a really desperate time of need like we are seeing right now in Texas and Louisiana, are taken care of. Major.
Sarah, about tomorrow, you said it's important for the public to be fully informed. I would just suggest you take in due seriousness having the pool be able to cover some portion of that cabinet meeting at Camp David tomorrow, so the country can be fully informed.
We will be releasing some of the president's remarks from tomorrow, and we'll keep you guys posted on that process and how that'll look.
You talked about eliminating partisan bickering from the debt ceiling process. Is that a Republican problem?
Is that I'm sorry?
A Republican problem. We had 90 Republicans in the House vote against this emergency relief package, in large measure because it was decoupled or coupled in a way.
The majority of Republicans voted for it. I think that the most important thing is that the deal got done. The president acted on it, and he worked with Democrats to get it done. And I think he's going to continue to work with whoever is interested in moving the ball forward to help the American people.
And for Republicans who are displeased with this, what is the White House message to them? Just get over it? You're sore losers? What?
I think the biggest message is that we're a lot less focused on what makes Congress happy and what makes Americans better and stronger. And that was the decision that the president made, that this was something that was important to get done, and he was willing to work with Democrats to make sure it happened. David.
Sarah, I think you just to change subjects for a second. There's been estimates that 250,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled violence in Burma, perpetrated by the military portion of the Burmese government. And I think last week you said you were asked whether the president had been briefed. You weren't sure. Can you give us an update whether the president has been briefed and made aware of it? If he has concerns about this, because it could be regionally destabilizing, and also let us know whether the president, since taking office, had had any direct conversation with Aung San Suu Kyi and would agree with some members of Congress who are now saying they would like her to take a stronger role in sort of denouncing this violence and trying to put an end to it.
I know that he's aware of the situation. We're monitoring. I'm not aware of it. If they've had specific conversations, so I'd have to look into
Do you guys
that.
have a statement, though, about of concern about this?
Again, we're monitoring the situation, and I would refer you to the State Department for specific details at this point. Jeff?
Sarah, what specifically are some ideas that the president would like to work with Democrats next on? He's talked a lot about tax reform, obviously, but is infrastructure also on the list here? Or when will we know if this sort of new approach to bipartisanship is something that is his new plan versus just, as Cecilia asked, was a one-off?
Look, the president's committed to moving legislation through. He wants Congress to act, and he's happy to have Democrats be part of that. Tax reform is a huge part of the agenda moving into the fall. Infrastructure is something certainly we'd love to see. He had meetings on that just yesterday, and we're going to continue to work with anyone willing to sit down at the table and focus on those pieces of legislation.
Has he given up on health care repeal?
No, and we're going to continue pushing and looking for new ways to improve the healthcare system, and certainly the ultimate goal would be to repeal Obamacare and replace it with something that actually
Would you work
works.
with Democrats on that to try and find
If Democrats are
solution?
willing to work on an actual solution, sure. Adam?
Thank you, Sarah. The president this morning talked about tax reform in a tweet, and he's focusing the country on tax reform after we get past the hurricanes and the immediate threats. Everyone in the administration says tax reform this year. One person, however, that would be Leader McConnell, keeps saying tax reform this Congress, which could be next year. Is the president willing to allow the focus on tax reform to move into 2018? And if not, what would he say to the leader to get him on board with everyone else in the administration to deliver tax reform to the American people by December 31st of this year?
Yeah, I think the ultimate goal is certainly to get it done. Ideally, we get it done as soon as possible. The most important thing, though, is that we're providing tax relief for middle-class Americans. And so ideally, we get that done. If we could get it done tomorrow, I think everybody would be happy with that. But obviously, it's going to be a process. As soon as we can, that would be our ultimate goal. But we want to make sure we get it done right, and that's important.
Leader McConnell keeps saying this Congress as if to give him a backdoor excuse or option to go into next year. What does the president say to him about that?
I certainly can't speak for Leader McConnell, but again, this administration, our priority is to get this done and get it done as quickly as we can. Catherine?
Sarah, is Mar-a-Lago following evacuation orders in Palm Beach?
I can't speak for the Trump organization. I'd direct you to them.
And do you know at all, I mean, the Mar-a-Lago has survived come through a number of hurricanes, very minimal damage. Would the president consider evacuees or victims of the storm being housed there?
Again, that's something that you would have to talk to the Trump organization, not something I can comment. Zeke?
One, with regards to the deal reached with Democrats earlier this week, the president talked a lot on the campaign about how he was going to cut the best deals. What would the White House's message be to Republicans who, on the issue of the debt ceiling or on the CRs passed, achieve better deficit-cutting deals under President Barack Obama?
I don't know that you could say that it's a better deal when you're helping people that are in a recovery effort, and that certainly was the priority of the president, is making sure that we move things forward and quickly so that those people were taken care of, and that was the priority in that process. No, sorry.
There's a report earlier this week that Special Counsel Robert Mueller was looking to meet with or interview White House staff regarding the statement that was put out in early July that Donald Trump Jr. is meeting with Russian training and several other individuals at Trump Tower. Has that a formal request been made, and will the White House staff be complying, and who is affected by that request?
I'm not aware of a specific request at this time, but certainly we've been very clear that the White House will be fully cooperative and transparent through this process. No.
Sir, I have two questions, one on DACA and one on the debt ceiling deal. On DACA, the president tweeted yesterday that DACA recipients have, quote, nothing to worry about over the next 6 months, and there would be no action. Can you definitively say that no DACA recipients will be deported in the next 6 months?
I would imagine, unless there was some sort of criminal activity, I think that would change the situation.
Why can't you definitively say that no DACA recipients
Well,
will be
I
deported?
was about to, if you'd let me finish
Go
my
ahead.
sentence. But I was going to say that outside of circumstances where there may be criminal activity or something along those lines, the president's been clear that that's not something that would take place, a change over those 6